Have you ever noticed that some people walk into a room and the energy instantly shifts? They don't raise their voice, they don't dress in the loudest colors, and they don't try to dominate every conversation, yet all eyes seem to turn toward them. It's as if their presence alone speaks louder than anything they could ever say. That is silent attractiveness. It's not about being the center of attention. It's not about begging to be noticed. It's about carrying a quiet strength that others can feel before you even open your mouth. The truth is, most people will never develop this kind of presence, not because they can't, but because they spend their entire lives chasing validation, burning themselves out just trying to be seen, and mistaking loudness for power. But real magnetism doesn't come from performance, it comes from within. True presence is not built on tricks, games, or shallow strategies. It's built on character. It's built on discipline. It's built on the courage to stand firm when everyone else is bending to fit in. And here's the paradox: the less you chase recognition, the more recognition you seem to attract. When you stop living for approval, you begin to carry yourself with an energy that makes others naturally gravitate toward you. This is the shift from chasing to attracting, from noise to stillness, from insecurity to groundedness. That's the beginning of something powerful. Think about the rare kind of person who enters a room without needing to prove anything. They're not desperate for attention, they're not trying to impress anyone, and yet they command it. They don't care if they're wearing the trendiest clothes or telling the most entertaining stories. They don't scroll through their phone nervously, pretending to be occupied. Instead, they're calm, grounded, and fully present. That energy is impossible to fake because it comes from an inner foundation, a solid sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on applause. Independence in this sense is not about living alone or cutting ties, it's about freeing your value from the chains of external validation. It's about making the decision that your worth is not for sale, not negotiable, and not defined by whether others approve of you. The ancient Stoics understood this in a way most modern people still struggle with. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that we all love ourselves more than anyone else, yet we care more about other people's opinions than our own judgment. To flip that imbalance is to find freedom. That doesn't mean being stubborn or arrogant. It means building an internal compass strong enough to stay steady even when the world is screaming at you to conform. You can listen to feedback, you can take advice, you can learn from others, but you don't get blown around like a leaf in the wind every time someone disagrees with you. Independence doesn't start with dramatic acts of rebellion. It starts with the smallest choices. Ordering the meal you actually want instead of copying what everyone else is getting. Wearing the jacket you love even if it isn't in style this year. Spending your weekend on something that excites you rather than filling your time with activities that look good on the outside but drain you on the inside. Every time you make a choice based on your own values instead of the crowd's expectations, you strengthen the muscle of independence. But real independence is not isolation. Many confuse self-reliance with shutting people out, but that isn't strength, it's fear wearing a mask. Real independence allows you to connect more deeply, because you are not clinging to others for identity or security. You can listen without needing validation. You can love without the fear of losing yourself. You can stand beside someone without depending on them to complete you. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." That kind of bravery allows you to stand alone, which ironically makes you even more capable of standing with others authentically. To build this independence, you must learn how to enjoy your own company. That doesn't mean distracting yourself endlessly. It means genuinely being with yourself. Sitting quietly for 10 minutes just to reflect. Taking yourself out for coffee without reaching for your phone. Going for a walk in silence without music or podcasts to drown your thoughts. At first, this feels uncomfortable, because we've all been conditioned to avoid silence and to run from our own minds. But the more you sit with yourself, the more you discover that solitude isn't empty, it's fertile. It's where clarity, confidence, and true self-trust begin to grow. Epictetus reminded us that freedom is only found by disregarding what lies outside our control. And the moment you become comfortable with yourself, you stop obsessing over how others perceive you. You stop contorting your identity to match their approval. You stop trying to control how they see you, and you focus instead on what you can control: your choices, your actions, your mindset, your principles. That shift alone changes how you move through the world. Of course, the journey isn't simple. Doubts will creep in. People will question your choices. You'll feel the sting of disapproval from voices you once placed above your own. That is the moment where Stoicism becomes your shield. No amount of applause can protect you from life's hardships, and no amount of criticism can strip away your integrity unless you willingly hand it over. The French philosopher Montaigne once wrote, the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. And that is the quiet truth at the heart of independence. It's not about pushing the world away, it's about anchoring yourself so deeply that no amount of chaos can knock you off balance. Once you've built that foundation, something changes. You no longer have to demand respect. You don't have to chase recognition. Your composure, your steadiness, your groundedness, those qualities begin to speak louder than anything you say. You become like a mountain, unmoved by storms, unshaken by seasons, silently commanding presence just by being what you are. And when you have that, you discover another dimension of magnetism, silent elegance. There are some people who leave an impression not by being the loudest voice in the room, but by the grace with which they carry themselves. They don't have to dominate every conversation or wear the flashiest clothes. Their elegance is quieter, subtler, but unforgettable. It's in the way they move, the calmness in their presence, the way they interact without competing for space. Silent elegance cannot be faked because it comes from the inside out. This kind of presence rests on three pillars: composure, intentional movement, and mindful interaction. Composure is the anchor. The ability to remain steady no matter what's happening around you. Life is full of awkward silences, unexpected questions, and tense conflicts. Most people panic, rush to fill the gaps, or react impulsively. But when you remain calm, when you breathe, when you hold the silence, when you respond with clarity, you radiate strength. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That is what composure communicates. I am grounded, I am steady, and I cannot be easily shaken. The way you carry yourself also speaks louder than you realize. Intentional movement is about walking, sitting, standing, even shaking hands in a way that reflects calm purpose. Silent elegance is not stiffness, it's a relaxed but deliberate presence. Shoulders back, posture open, head held naturally. You're not rushing as if desperate to prove something, nor dragging as if weighed down. Your steps say, "I am here, and I do not need to announce it." Even the smallest gestures reflect your steadiness. And then there's eye contact. It's one of the strongest signals of presence, and yet it's often misunderstood. Too little eye contact makes you seem disconnected. Too much becomes a challenge. But when you find the balance, holding someone's gaze long enough to connect, then breaking it naturally, you create trust. Pair that with composure, and suddenly people feel seen and respected in your presence without even knowing why. The third element is mindful interaction. In a world where most people are obsessed with talking, the ones who know how to listen become unforgettable. Silent elegance doesn't come from dominating conversations. It comes from making others feel valued. Listening without interrupting. Asking thoughtful questions. Giving someone your full attention. And when people feel truly heard in your presence, they begin to associate you with warmth, depth, and quiet confidence. Restraint is part of this too. Most people feel the urge to over-explain themselves, to argue, to match energy with energy. Silent elegance is knowing when not to react. It's the ability to let silence do the work for you. It's choosing words carefully so that when you do speak, people listen. Paradoxically, the fewer words you waste, the more powerful your words become. Even in style, elegance is not about labels or trends. It's not about expensive watches or glittering accessories. It's about refinement, simplicity, and attention to detail. Clothes that fit well, colors that suit you, grooming that shows care. You don't need to draw attention with extravagance, your presence itself becomes the attention. Put this together, and you have something rare. Independence gives you the foundation that can't be shaken, and silent elegance shapes how that foundation is expressed in the world. Together, they form a quiet magnetism that doesn't beg for attention but naturally commands it. People feel it in your walk, in your silence, in your unshaken calm. And here's the great irony. The moment you stop trying to be noticed, you become unforgettable. There is a rare kind of person you encounter only once in a while, someone who makes you feel as though you are the only human being in existence in that moment. When you speak to them, you don't sense impatience or distraction. They are not glancing at their phone, scanning the room for someone more interesting, or mentally rehearsing what they will say next. They are simply there, fully anchored in the conversation, giving you the gift of their complete attention. And it feels like a gift, because in today's world, it is. Our culture is dominated by noise, buzzing notifications, multitasking, endless scrolling, the constant tug of obligations. True presence has become rare, which is precisely why it feels magnetic when you experience it. After an encounter with such a person, you don't just remember the conversation itself. You remember how they made you feel, valued, respected, seen. And that feeling lingers long after the words are forgotten. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Presence is the catalyst for that transformation. It's not the cleverness of your words, the depth of your knowledge, or the impressiveness of your achievements that creates connection. It's the simple yet profound act of being fully there. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to return to the present, to avoid being carried away by worries of the future or regrets of the past. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." For him, this wasn't about passivity, it was about clarity. If you are distracted, you cannot act with wisdom. If you are scattered, you cannot connect with others authentically. Presence, then, is not only a form of respect for others, but also a discipline of the self. Think of the last time you had a conversation where the other person was half absent. Maybe they were nodding but clearly lost in thought, or they were checking their phone every few seconds. How did it feel? Probably dismissive. Almost like you weren't worth their full attention. Now imagine the opposite. Someone leaning in, listening carefully, reflecting on your words before responding. It feels rare, even extraordinary, precisely because it is so uncommon. Presence is not about sitting in perfect silence or forcing an artificial calm. It's about genuinely engaging. It's about noticing the subtleties, the tone of someone's voice, the shifts in their body language, the emotions behind their words. It means slowing down enough to not only hear but to understand. And this requires self-discipline, because our minds are wired to wander, to chase distractions, to plan and analyze rather than to simply be. Practicing presence starts with awareness. Ask yourself, when I'm with others, am I really with them, or am I half somewhere else? Do I interrupt because I'm eager to respond, or can I pause and let silence do its work? Do I check my phone when someone is speaking, even for a second? Small habits like these are signals of where your attention truly lies. The Stoics would advise us to remember that attention is one of the most valuable currencies we possess. Giving it freely to another person is an act of generosity. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is ours, except time." To be present with someone, then, is to give them the only thing you can never take back. And in that gift lies dignity, respect, and connection. Presence also transforms you. When you slow down and become fully engaged, you notice details you would otherwise miss, the warmth in someone's eyes, the nervousness in their laugh, the sincerity in their words. You begin to experience life not as a blur of rushed interactions but as a series of meaningful exchanges. Your memory sharpens. Your stress diminishes. You realize that most anxiety comes from being anywhere but here. Practically, cultivating presence can be as simple as taking a breath before entering a conversation. Ground yourself by noticing your posture, relaxing your shoulders, and setting aside distractions. When you speak, slow down slightly, not to drag but to ensure your words carry weight. When you listen, resist the urge to plan your response. Listen to understand, not to reply. These may sound small, but repeated daily, they rewire the way you engage with the world. And remember, being present doesn't mean being perfect. You will still get distracted, your thoughts will still wander. The difference is whether you notice and return. Just as in meditation, the practice is not about never drifting, it's about gently bringing yourself back when you do. Each time you return, you strengthen the muscle of attention. There's also a silent elegance in presence. The person who is calm, grounded, and attentive naturally commands respect without demanding it. They don't need to dominate the room or outshine others, their presence speaks for them. In many ways, presence is the highest form of charisma because it is not about performance, but about authenticity. In the end, being fully present is less about technique and more about intention. It's a decision to honor the moment, the person in front of you, and yourself. It's the practice of not scattering your energy across countless distractions, but of concentrating it into the here and now. And when you do that, you create an atmosphere others can feel, safe, valued, and significant. This is why presence leaves such a lasting impression. Words fade, appearances change, but the memory of being seen, heard, and valued endures. It is a form of silent influence, one that requires no force, no showmanship, only sincerity. As Epictetus might say, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In the context of presence, this means letting go of the need to impress, to be clever, to dominate. Instead, simply be. Let your full attention be your statement. That is enough. And so, in a world where everyone is rushing, multitasking, and half-living, The rare person who chooses to be fully present becomes unforgettable. They don't have to announce it. They don't even have to try. They just are. And that is where their quiet power lies. If there is any real reaction between two people, both are transformed. Presence is the catalyst for that transformation. It is the unspoken signal that says, I see you. You matter. And yet, presence, though simple in nature, is one of the hardest things to truly embody. Our world is designed to rob us of it. The endless interruptions, constant notifications, scrolling feeds, background noise, multitasking, it all pulls us away from the only moment we ever really have, the present. Being present requires deliberate resistance to that pull, a conscious act of rebellion against distraction. The Stoics knew this truth long before smartphones or social media existed. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, confine yourself to the present. For him, this was not a casual piece of advice, it was a discipline, a way to cut through the chaos of life. Because if you're anchored in the present moment, you're not haunted by the regrets of yesterday or consumed by the anxieties of tomorrow. You are here, now, and people can feel that anchor in you. When you're fully present with someone, you don't need words to communicate their importance. Your silence says it all. You're telling them with your attention that their existence matters, that their voice carries weight. And in today's world, that level of focus is so rare that it feels almost sacred. Think about the last time you had a conversation where the other person wasn't really there with you. Maybe they were nodding politely but glancing at the clock. Maybe they were subtly scrolling their phone, pretending to listen. You sensed it immediately. It felt dismissive, like their body was there but their mind had already left. That experience leaves a mark. It's the emotional equivalent of being told, you're not that important right now. On the other hand, when someone gives you their undivided attention, when they lean in, listen carefully, and hold space for your words, you feel validated in a way that is unforgettable. You feel like your thoughts, your emotions, your very presence, carry weight. Seneca saw the danger in wasting time this way. He once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And the greatest waste is splitting your attention, being everywhere but here. Presence doesn't mean perfection, it means intention. You will get distracted, that's part of being human, but what matters is the choice to return. To gently pull your focus back to the person or the task in front of you. And presence isn't limited to conversations. It extends to every act of living. Cooking dinner, reading a book, taking a walk, these aren't just activities, they're opportunities. Yet most of us miss them entirely because our minds are restless travelers, constantly leaping ahead to the next stop. But if you pause, if you actually notice the way the air smells, the way someone's expression shifts when they speak, the exact tone of their voice, you start to experience life in a way most people skip over completely. The psychological impact of presence is immediate. When you give someone your full attention, you're not just processing their words, you're attuning yourself to their tone, their body language, the emotions behind their expression. That level of attention makes you far more empathetic, far more in tune with the hidden layers of communication. And empathy, in turn, makes connection deeper, faster, and more genuine. But presence is not passive, it requires self-discipline. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. They're already planning what to say next before the other person has even finished speaking. True presence means letting go of the need to control the flow of the conversation. It means allowing it to unfold, to surprise you, to lead you somewhere unexpected. Epictetus captured this wisdom when he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's not just etiquette, it's influence. Because when people feel truly heard, they open up. They trust. They engage more deeply. And ironically, by saying less, you gain more. There's also a hidden power in presence, it makes you memorable. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room, or the one telling the most entertaining story. If you simply make people feel like their words matter, they will remember you long after you're gone. And that's the beauty of it. Presence is free, it's available to anyone. You don't need wealth, looks, or status to embody it. You just need the discipline to put the phone down, quiet the mental noise, and give yourself fully to the moment. Michel de Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." Presence begins there, with your own relationship to yourself. Because if you can't ground yourself in your own stillness, you'll never be able to offer it to others. Now, being fully present doesn't mean losing yourself or erasing your own perspective. It's about balance, holding space for someone else's reality without abandoning your own. Too often, we listen only to respond, filtering everything through our own lens. But presence asks you to step into their world, even if only temporarily. Carl Jung described this as holding space for another's truth, allowing both realities to coexist. And this requires humility, the recognition that your perspective is not the only one that matters. It's a shift from dominance to openness. If you want to practice presence, start small. The next time you're in a conversation, consciously put away your phone. Face the person directly. Make steady but natural eye contact, not staring, but not darting away either. Nod when you're following along. Ask genuine questions that show you care. And when your mind inevitably drifts, notice it and bring it back without judgment. This is the same principle that underlies mindfulness meditation. The Stoics didn't sit cross-legged with incense, but they practiced a form of mindfulness daily through reflection and journaling, anchoring themselves in the present moment, training their attention like a muscle. The rewards of presence go far beyond making others feel valued. It transforms your own experience of life. Suddenly, the things you used to overlook, a smile, a moment of silence, a simple meal, begin to feel richer, more meaningful. Relationships deepen because people trust you with their vulnerability. Your inner world becomes calmer because you're no longer caught between the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future. And in difficult situations, presence becomes a tool of influence. In high-stakes conversations, where emotions run high, a calm attentive presence is more powerful than any clever argument. It signals control, composure, and respect, qualities that people are naturally drawn to, both in personal and professional settings. Unlike manipulation or flashy tricks, presence builds a reputation of trust that lasts. At its core, presence is about respect. Respect for yourself, so that you show up fully, not halfway. And respect for others, so that you give them your most valuable resource, your attention. The next time you're with someone, ask yourself, am I really here, or is my mind somewhere else entirely? Am I giving them the focus I secretly wish others would give me? Because presence costs nothing, but it is one of the rarest and most impactful gifts you can offer.